All right, Brigitte, we've talked for about 35 minutes. We have not said the two words, Donald Trump. First off, I think we just set a record. 35 minutes of conversation without saying Trump once. Okay, you are a Trump supporter.
I'm a trumpeter.
A trumpeter, okay. You're a trumpeter. I think you've met with the president, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me something about him maybe that the average person doesn't know, or that you might not get through the filter of CNN, or that you maybe don't even get through the filter of Twitter?
He is a billionaire who left a life of luxury to serve the American people. He is somebody who is not doing it for power. He already had power. He's not doing it for fame. He already had fame. He's not doing it for the money. He already had money. He doesn't care. He wakes up every morning to all the insults and the hate and images of beheading by Kathy Griffith that his son can watch and be mortified that somebody actually really killed my dad. And then he remembers, I'm not doing this to please the media. I'm doing it because I'm fighting for the American people. They hate him not because they hate him because he is serving the American people. He is putting America first. And they do not know how to handle him. And that's why Donald Trump is resonating with a lot of people in this country, from CEOs of companies to janitors working for $10 an hour. Because from the janitor to the CEO, they know, and everybody in between, President Donald Trump is working for me. And it's a breath of fresh air, because for decades now, we have had many presidents on the right and the left. Not many people could say, Barack Obama is working for me, or George Bush is working for me, or Clinton is working for me. But with Donald Trump, the janitor knows President Donald Trump is working for me. And that's why he's resonating with the people.
So when you see the tweets and some of the over-the-top stuff, you know, every now and again I'll watch some old clips from him in the 80s talking to Oprah or Phil Donahue, and he's soft and seemingly very pleasant and open, and you can see the way in Q&As with audience members, I think on Donahue, he's extremely human, all of these things, and it's not exactly the caricature that we get these days. Do you think that he sort of became this thing because it was the only, it was the only way he would have been hard enough to break through? Does that make sense? Like, I think he was probably extremely similar to the person from back then, but he became hardened because it was the only way you were going to ever break through this. Like, no one else was ever going to break through this thing.
If you listen to Donald Trump,
I asked that in a very convoluted way,
you know
but
what?
I think you got the point there.
Donald Trump today is the exact same person he was 25 years ago, when he was on Phil Donahue, when he was on Oprah. He still says the exact same words. Have you noticed?
Well, the theme is the same, but he's hardened now. There's like a, and I'm not even blaming him for that. I think to go through the media machine and the establishment and all that, you've got to get hardened. Otherwise, it will choke everybody out, which is what it does. He
fights to win. Before, they didn't argue with what he said. So you didn't see that side of him. Mm-hmm. He would have been just as hard back then. Mm-hmm. Today, they do not want to listen to any word he says. If he became Jesus, they would find a reason to fight against him. They would call him, evil, hater, monster, whatever. So the reason why they call him all the names that they call him now is because he is not towing the line to them. Look, he has 90 million followers on Twitter. He goes straight around the media. He doesn't need the media. He is communicating directly with the American people, and the media hates this. And he is somebody who fights. The breath, I love his tweets, by the way. I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Oh my God, I cannot believe he tweeted that. You know what? We finally have a man who stands up to the bullies and punches back. Mm-hmm. We are so used to men who are wusses in this country. We have forgotten what it's like to see a real man who stands up and says, I respect myself too much to let you walk all over me, or call me that, or treat me that way. And if you treat me that way, I'm going to punch you back. Now stand up like a man and fight me. We forgot how a man like that looks like. And so Donald Trump is shocking the system at a time where men have been stripped out of their manhood. The society is changing. roles are changing. So in our society today, they want a man that they can walk all over. And, they say, oh, we need somebody who is nice and, like Romney or like McCain. Everybody loved McCain until he ran for president. Mm-hmm. Then they did the same thing to him. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved Romney until he ran for president. They did the same thing to him. I mean, if you would hear CNN talk about Romney or McCain when they were running for president, they were saying the same thing like Trump.
He was racist, he hated women, all of those things. So I'm completely with you on that part. And that's what I mean by the hardening of Trump, that he almost had to be this thing because nobody else could have. They tried it the other way. They tried it with nicer people, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. So it's like, well, this is the guy you're going to get.
And he's getting things done. And the American people are behind him. And he is resonating with the American people. And if his message wasn't resonating, he wouldn't have the tens of millions of followers who are following him on social media and still rooting for him. And the Donald Trump supporters dig their heel even deeper with all the attacks from the media, with even the attacks from his own party, Dave. Mm. I mean, look, you and I know there are people who hate his guts in Washington, D.C. You talk about cleaning the swamp. He is shaking everybody, the left and the right. Despite all that, his support, his approval rating is at an all-time high. So it doesn't matter what people are saying to him. He is doing what is right by the American people, by America.
So what are some of the policies that he's doing that jive with this book, like in terms of borders and stuff like that? You're for building the wall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here is why. I am a legal immigrant to the United States. I understand what it's like for people to want to come here. I wanted to come here so badly. I remember getting an American flag, putting it under my pillow in my bomb shelter. And I couldn't wait to come to America. I learned English. I don't know if I shared this with you last time. Writing subtitles on my arm. Did I tell you? That's how I learned English. I never studied English at school. I was so determined to come to the United States that we would watch black and white television operated on a car battery in our bomb shelter. And my father would watch the news. And if there was any charge of the battery left, I would watch The Love Boat on Wednesday night and Dallas on Friday night. And, we would have Arabic subtitles.
That's a pretty warped view of what America is.
I know. The Love Boat in Dallas. That's what impacted my life. And if two people looked into each other's eyes, and he said something to her and she said maybe, and they would write what maybe meant on the bottom, I knew that maybe meant whatever that word in Arabic. And I would literally write it in ink on my arm. And because we barely had water to drink, let alone shower, we showered once a week, I built a huge vocabulary on my arm. That's how I learned English. Because I was so determined that if I ever meet an American, I want to be able to communicate with them in their language so I can get to the United States. And when I came to the United States, I came to America by marriage. I had married an American war correspondent in Jerusalem. We came to America. We put in my papers to become an American. I flew here. I paid for my airline ticket, paid for my attorneys to do all my paperwork, paid for my doctor's visit to do all the needle poking to make sure I'm tested for this disease and that disease to make sure I'm not bringing anything to the country. And then I had to study a 2-inch thick book written by the Daughters of the American Revolution about America's history and heritage, and pass a written exam as well as a verbal exam in English before I became an American, about America's history. By the time I became an American, I knew more about America's history than my own American-born husband did. I am a legal immigrant. Those are the type of immigrants we need coming to America, because we had a fire in our belly to be all we can be as Americans. Right now, the people who are breaking the law to get here, not because they want to come here for a better life or they are escaping persecution. Look at the caravan that's coming to the United States. Mexico offered them asylum. Mexico offered them jobs. They didn't want it. They're not there to seek jobs or asylum. The UN, they passed literally by UN centers set up specifically for those who want asylum and claiming refugee status. They didn't even stop. Continued coming to the United States to the border, and not even to the port of entry, just to break the law to get here. We have to have law and order in the country. So yes, I support Donald Trump. Build the wall and make sure anybody who wants to come to the United States can go through the proper channel and earn the privilege to be an American, because it is a privilege. Because people like me who did it by the book are insulted and offended when we see criminals are allowed to come in here and have the same rights that we paid with our sweat, heart, and blood to get and worked very hard for years to become Americans.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to me, because they've also done plenty of studies on this where recent immigrants are actually against the caravan and against a lot of these people. Not because they have anything against the people, but if you did it the right way, if you did it the way the law lays out, well, then you don't want people just storming over. And that is what a nation of laws is.
Right. And you know, when you look at what illegal immigration is costing the United States, do you know that $45 billion a year leaves America from those illegal aliens that come here to work in the United States, the illegal criminal aliens, and they sent it to their countries of origin? That money is not staying here. They're not here to become a part of the American fabric, to contribute to American society, to grow, to become all they can be. They are here to use our system and siphon money and send it out there. Do you know that it costs the American public $200 billion a year in welfare expenses by criminal illegal aliens to the United States? 3 million illegal aliens are incarcerated daily in American prisons. 30% of federal inmates in federal prisons are illegal criminal aliens. So when you look at the cost, when you add all the costs, and I can rattle in a bunch of points, but when you add it all up, $338 billion a year is the cost of illegal immigration to the United States. The cost to build the wall is nothing compared to what we're paying annually to illegal criminal aliens, not to mention the crimes, killing our children, MS-13 gangs coming here and what they're doing to our society. We don't want any of that.
What do you make of the same people who will tell you that America is an evil, patriarchal, capitalistic monster that also want open borders to apparently share in that horror with everybody else?
America...
Pretty flawed thinking there, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. America is the most incredible nation on the face of the planet. Look, you traveled the world. You're traveling on a speaking tour. I was born and raised on the other side of the world. I understand. I've seen, you and I have traveled the world. I mean, from Australia to Europe. I mean, we've been in a lot of places, you and I. And we have seen how the rest of the world lives compared to the rights that we have here. Look, our poorest of the poor who are living on welfare have dishwashers in their government-paid housing, have heating and air conditioning, have cell phones. You know, these are luxury items. And many other places in the rest of the world. Even in developed countries, they are considered luxury items. This is what we give to people who are living on welfare in the United States. So those who complain about America need to open their eyes. They need to go to India, you know, to the slums of India. They need to visit the Philippines. They need to go to Vietnam. They need to go to Egypt. They need to see how the rest of the world lives and then come back to America and complain.
Isn't it just a lazy way of thinking, really? Because it's just easier to destroy than create. So it's just easier to sit here after all of the hard-won freedoms and tell you how horrible everything is, rather than actually fix anything. But burning things down is a lot easier, right?
Exactly. But no one's holding them accountable. You see, people like us and the old great generation who really fought World War II, who are the veterans who are still walking among us today, who fought, you know, in the wars, whether in Korea or in Vietnam, or World War II. I mean, now they're getting older and fewer and dying. But their descendants who understand what America did to the world and the freedoms that we helped spread around the world. Look, we didn't want anything from Japan. You know, we conquered nation and then we gave them their freedom and then rebuilt them. Who does that? We didn't go to Iraq because we wanted oil. We didn't go to Afghanistan because we wanted oil. We went there and started building schools and bridges for them to improve their lives, and left and didn't take any of the oil with us. We want to improve the world, and we need to fight right now those lazy American brats who are speaking ills of America, who do not understand America. We need to come together, organize, and rise together in defense of America. And that's why we need to come together and understand what we are facing, how we are losing our country, and this is what I get to in the book. You know, I say, how did we go from the stories of George Washington and the cherry tree? I shall never tell a lie. How did we go from that generation to the Antifa thugs who were born and raised in America, went to American schools paid for by our tax dollars, who believe you can cheat, you can lie, you can steal, you can show up with machetes and brass knuckles, you can hit people, you can block bridges, you can destroy property, and you feel justified doing it. How did we go in one generation and one lifetime from this to that? And that's why we need to stand up. Those of us who are in the middle, who understand America's greatness, need to come together and stand up to fight to protect America while we still have a chance.
So what are the other Judeo-Christian values that we need to be thinking about? We talked about free speech. What are the other bedrock principles that we need to fight back some of this stuff?
Oh my goodness, we need to fight to protect our language. Yeah, I explained something very easy to you. We cannot lose our language. Language unites people in one nation, the English language. Right now, we are importing people from different parts of the world, and we are not making them learn English. We now have public schools that have 16 different languages that are spoken in a public school, and teachers who have to be trained to speak a certain language to children instead of saying, okay, now you came to America, you need to assimilate, you need to learn English. I know Spanish people who have been in this country, Mexican people, for over 20 years. They still cannot speak English properly, or they speak very little English. That's not acceptable. That's not what made America great. We have got to enforce that English is the official language of the United States and shall remain so. We welcome people from all backgrounds. The immigrants that came to this country, the Jews that came from all over the world, the Irish, the Catholics, everybody. They came to the United States. They made sure their children spoke English because they wanted their kids to become as American as apple pie, as fast as possible to assimilate into this society. We're not seeing that right now. We are seeing in Detroit, you call government office, you're getting in Arabic, you know, and then you push like 4 for English. First you get Arabic, and then you get Spanish, and then you get this and this and that. That's unacceptable. And people need to understand their power. In my book, at the end of every chapter, I have a section titled Rise Up and Act. No matter what I'm talking about, I give people ideas and tips, 3 things you can do under 10 minutes that will make a difference for the country. And you can do them sipping your cup of coffee in your pajamas at 7 a.m. in the morning. To give you an idea, calling your elected official. Many people say, Brigitte, what is my voice going to count? My elected official needs to hear from 40,000 people before they do something. Wrong. I talk to elected officials all the time, and I ask them, how many people do you need to hear from about a single issue to make it your top priority? You'll be shocked. How many do you think?
I mean, it's got to be so ridiculously low because nobody calls them, and we all think it's 40,000, but it's probably like 50 people or something like that.
That's it. 40 to 50 people. And here is the science behind the numbers. They believe if one person makes a phone call or writes a letter, he or she are representing 1,000 couch potatoes who feel the same way but are too lazy to make a phone call or write a letter, yet they vote on election day. That translates to 40 to 50,000 voters on election day. That can make or break an election. So I tell people, you can be active sitting in traffic. Look, we are in LA. How many hours people spend sitting in traffic? I spent 2.5 hours yesterday sitting in traffic trying to go 50 miles. Program the White House phone number. Program your elected official's phone number in your cell phone. When you get a text alert from us about a bill coming down for a vote, punch a button, click, and call your elected officials. Or send an email. When people go to actforamerica.org, which I mentioned all throughout the book, my organization, actforamerica.org, they can click on Contact Congress. They can sign up to get our emails and action alerts. We send emails about bills coming down for a vote, the bill number, who sponsors it, what it says. We even have pre-written letters for them that they can email their elected officials. With the click of a button, it'll go to your elected official. Letters to the editors, script, I give samples. In this book, the last chapter, the whole chapter is samples about activism. Samples about letters to the editor. All you have to do is add your name and send it to your newspaper.
Is part of the problem that we put so much emphasis on the presidency? So it's great, you're doing local activism. You're saying, call your congressman. If you've got a problem with your exit, my exit right here where I live, I don't want to say exactly where, it's filled with garbage for the 2 years that I've been living here. David's been calling this guy nonstop to get he wants to go out there and start picking up stuff, but it's too dangerous. But it's just, nobody focuses on local anymore because we put such emphasis on the executive branch, on the cult of personality around the presidency. So it's like by going to your local congressman or congresswoman, you might actually get something done. It's a lot harder to do it the other way.
Absolutely. And on the local state elected officials, you know, your local state and delegates,
I may have you call the guy at the
10
exit,
to 12 people. That's it. And so this is why we started chapters nationwide. This is why we have activists nationwide. I tell people, go to actforamerica.org, sign up as an activist, join a chapter or start a chapter if there's no chapter near you. Everything happens on a local level because those local elected officials that you develop a connection with and a contact go to become state elected officials, then federal elected officials, attorney generals, and then state senators, congressmen. This is how we change society. And so I encourage people to get involved and become engaged. And that's exactly what this book is, a roadmap for people on how to rise. Rise. This is why we titled it Rise. You know.
Are you selling the book? Is that what's going on here? I can't tell.
People need to get this book and they need to donate it to every library in their community. So when people are looking to find out information, they can find it. Read it for yourself, donate it to a public library in your community, get multiple copies. We want people to learn how they can be mobilized. The left understands how to mobilize. We on the right understand the issues, but do not know how to mobilize. And that's what this book teaches them.
So what else? What else can we do? I feel like you got a couple other tricks up your sleeve.
Oh, absolutely.
Give me something sexy. It can't just be calling your congressman.
Make new friends. Start a chapter, you'll get to meet great new friends in your community. If people sign up to be a chapter leader with us, we will connect them with the same group in their local community who sign up to get our emails and they say, I want to join a chapter. I want to meet people in my community like this. We connect them together. They can do local activities together. They can go out to dinners together. They can work on issues relating to their community. I have made the best friends doing my activism. That's what launched my career in activism. So this is the type of ideas that people can do. Come together and work together. Have on a Saturday, one Saturday, have a meeting, a chapter meeting once a month. Write letters to your congressman about the garbage on the side of the street. Yeah. You know, we need to clean this garbage out. This is unacceptable. Protest bills that are coming down. I'll give you an idea. We're accepting all these refugees coming in here. So right now we are bringing our standards down to accommodate the standards of people from third world country. To give you an example, the city of Denver in 2017 passed an ordinance that allowed people to defecate on the sidewalk. Why? Because they have a lot of illegal immigrants who feel no problem to just drop their pants and do it on the side of the road. But because it is a deportable crime, because that crime is punishable up to 1 year in jail, and if you commit such a crime, you are deported. The city of Denver has a bigger problem with illegal immigration than San Francisco and Philadelphia. So that's why they passed the ordinance. They do not want people deported. Can you imagine if you have a chapter with 30 people, all 30 people organizing together on the same issue, calling their local state government, saying this is unacceptable, and if you don't change that, we're going to vote you out and replace you. That's how the left does it. That's how we need to do it.
That's a pretty clear one where you could probably escape some of the cries of racism, right? Because nobody wants their streets filled up with poop. But, you know, San Francisco has this app that'll tell you where human poop is.
Unbelievable. And now the diseases that are spreading because of that. And this is something I mentioned in the book. All the rise in diseases in our country. Look, you know, you've heard right now about the Lyme disease or that disease that's now being transferred to people because in San Francisco, you've got flies basically eating the human waste, and then you're walking down the street and they're biting you. So mosquitoes now are transferring these diseases that were once eliminated in the United States by simply eating human waste and then biting you with it, putting it in your body. This is exactly why about a month ago we started seeing, you know, this disease pop up. People cannot explain it. Some people died. Tuberculosis, for example, is exploding in the United States. The top 4 states with tuberculosis are California, over 500 cases, Florida, Texas, and New York. 16 states are now grappling with tuberculosis. It is the fastest growing disease in America right now. They have The state of Wisconsin alone has 116 cases of tuberculosis, and the majority of them are drug resistant, which means it takes 6 months to treat a patient, and it takes 6 to 8 months to treat them at the cost of $150,000 per patient out of our tax dollars. These are issues we need to talk about. These are issues affecting our communities, and that's what I discuss in the book. So it's not only about national security per se, it's why we need to rise in defense of our culture and our freedoms and what made America great.
Do you find that the people that are part of ACT are diverse politically? Because it's interesting. I mean, I've spent hours with you now, and it's like, I guess you're a conservative, but you're not. You're sort of my kind of conservative.
Yeah, I'm a conservative who loves you and your husband. I'm considered your friend.
Right, but you're like my kind of liberal, which you know is half conservative at this point because everything is so upside down. But do you find that you get a real mix of political views in the people that are coming to you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Look, with our organizations, I mean, we have everybody. People that put their differences aside and came together for the safety and security of America and preserving who we are as Americans and defending our American values. Our members are Jews, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, atheists, gays, lesbians. I mean, I've got gay chapter leaders, priests chapter leaders. We've got everybody. People like you and I and everybody else that put, you know, people may not agree on every single social issues, but people agree on a lot of things that make us Americans because we love each other as Americans, we respect each other as Americans, and we want to defend our country and the principles that made it great. And so that's why we work together. And it's like I said, it's such a shame that now people, you know, say, I never thought I would be called a conservative, or you would be called a conservative. But you know what? As far as the left is concerned right now, you and I are conservatives.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that you are a married gay man.
Yeah.
You're a conservative. Welcome to the new conservatism. And you know, this is why when Donald Trump talks about nationalism, we are a nationalist country. We are. We are standing up as a nation to fight what makes America great. Patriotic America. You know, the patriotism that we have in America, they don't have in other countries of the world. Mm-hmm. You go to Australia, you don't see the Australian flag flying everywhere. Mm-hmm. You go to England, you don't see the British flag flying everywhere.
No, I really noticed that when I was in Europe.
Now that you're traveling worldwide,
yeah.
What makes America so unique is this nationalism that brings us all together, our love for country. People go to baseball, to games, and we play the national anthem. You know, they don't do that in other parts of the world. They don't play the national anthem before games. We take it for granted. And now everybody's upset with the president because he's talking about American nationalism, what brings us together. They need to travel to Australia, go to Canada, go to Germany, attend a football thing. They don't play the national anthem. It's not like the United States. That's what he was referring to. We're talking about our nationalism, what brings us together as Americans. Our Americanism. He could have used a different word, Americanism, so the left would not feel offended. But that's what he was talking about.
Pretty sure they would have offended either way.
They would have been offended either way.
I feel I should give you the chance to close this with a speech as epic as your last speech, although you've done about 5 of them here in the last hour. But do you want to give me a closing statement that will be memeable?
Footprints in history are not made sitting down. Countries cannot be saved by hashtags and tweets. We need to stand up and put some sweat equity into saving our country. But thankfully, we don't have to freeze in Valley Forge like our founding fathers in the snow, waiting to see if we still have a country the next day. What we can do right now with our activism is come together and get together at a coffee shop, sipping our cappuccinos, meeting like-minded great Americans who love America, who believe in America's exceptionalism, who believe in safe, secure border, who believe in having law and order in our country, who believe in respecting our police, who believe in honoring our military, who believe in cherishing the memories and acknowledging the freedom that we have and the sacrifices that our military have paid to give us the freedoms that we have today. You know, when we visit other countries, and you have visited France, and you go to Normandy, and you see the graves of Americans in Normandy, you sit back and you know that these American brave soldiers left their home and went overseas, laying their life on the line to fight for freedom and for justice and for the American values, if you don't want to call them Judeo-Christian values, American values, so the rest of the world can experience the freedom that we have. The previous generation was willing to cross oceans and go die over there to protect the same freedoms that we have here at home and give them to other people. The least we can do is activate here in our home in the United States of America and come together and stand together and face those naysayers and those who slap labels on us. At least they're not shooting bullets at us. All they're saying is, he's a racist, or she's a racist, or she's a white supremacist. But we can come together to save our country together, and that's the beauty. It's people like you and I coming together and looking into each other's eyes and really being so excited to see each other again and be together again as Americans, as different as we are. But we come together and we love each other and respect what each other does to save this country, and that's what America is all about. I encourage people to rise in defense of Judeo-Christian values and freedom. Get the book, read it, share it with their friends, get multiple copies, put them in public libraries. We need to educate, and go to actforamerica.org. And by the way, we named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not wish for America, not pray for America. You can do all that, but without acting, nothing happens.
You are the real deal, Brigitte. And
Thank you, my friend. I love you.
If you are the racist bigot of the day, then I will gladly be thrown in that bucket with you. In case people don't know, guys, the link to Rise is right down below, and buy it and put it in libraries and all that good stuff.
Please help us.
And for more on Brigitte, you can follow her on Twitter. It's @Brigitte.